think we're live. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Mimi.
It's wonderful to see you even virtually. And I'm just going to give a few moments for people to find this feed. But it looks like we are live on YouTube and Facebook. So it's always nice to have people join us live, but the link does stay up for later so it can be shared and viewed. So I just want to say to everybody, good evening and or morning, wherever you're watching from, or afternoon, as the case may be. Welcome back to Tea with Mimi. I can't believe this is already episode 27 of the live stream show that I started during the first part of the COVID pandemic lockdown, just from my phone, playing solo flute music and talking about the music, and was so happy to be able to share at least and communicate with people virtually during that very difficult time. But then later through StreamYard software, I'm able to have guests. So that's extra special. And I just want to give a warm welcome to Lucy Shelton. Lucy, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
My pleasure, Mimi.
It's great to have you. And so I'm going to officially introduce you in a moment before we get to the fun stuff and the music and everything. But to so many, Lucy Shelton needs no introduction. And I'm just going to start with the Boston Globe. Shelton's musicianship, technique, and intelligence are unfailing. And the London Sunday Times, mellifluous, creamy phrasing, and breathtaking virtuosity. That's just two of many marvelous press quotes I wanted to share. She is the only winner of 2 Naumburg Awards, one for solo and one for chamber music. She has premiered over 100 works by some of the most eminent composers of our day, including Elliot Carter, Oliver Nussin, Joseph Schwantner, Paul Ruders, and Gerard Grisey, and has performed with the world's leading orchestras and ensembles and artists. Just a few highlights is performing with Pierre Boulez, conducting his own work in LA, Chicago, London, and Paris, and many other international performances, often with the composers or the composers' conductors themselves. So just fascinating recollections to talk about as well. But Lucy's mentor was mezzo-soprano Jan de Gaetani. She's also a distinguished teacher at Tanglewood, Eastman, New England Conservatory, Cleveland Institute, and on the faculty of the Manhattan School of Music. Many other exciting performances. I guess everyone can look at your website to find out even more details. But once again, welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
And we were just chatting before we went live about your residency or many performances with Dolce Suono Ensemble, which was so exciting. And going back to 2012 and throughout the next several seasons on many works, including the world premiere of our commissioned work by Shulamit Ron, Moon Songs, and others. So I can't believe that was 10 years ago when we premiered Shulamit's piece.
I can't believe that either.
Yeah, well, we're going to hear some in a moment, but first I just want to say hi to some friends who are putting comments. Welcome, Rick Rosen. Welcome, Krista Hansen. Thanks for being here. Everybody, while we have the benefit of Lucy Shelton with us, if you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. We also would love to know where you are and perhaps what you're drinking on Tea with Mimi. So let me start with you, Lucy. What do you have that you're drinking today?
Well, I have a beautiful glass filled with cranberry juice. Looks more exotic because of the glass.
That's a very nice glass. Is that a particularly good drink for a singer?
It's just what I happen to have in the fridge.
Okay.
No, I have come. Yeah, I drink cranberry juice every day. I don't know when I started it, but I like it.
It's delicious. Cheers. This is berry tea, one of my favorite, Twinings Herbals. And Rick is in New Hope, not finishing sushi with Mimi. Is that okay? Absolutely. If you're having your dinner or whatever you're having, that's wonderful to have some perhaps dinner with music. So, you know what? I think I'm going to start by sharing the opening of Shulamit's piece. It was commissioned as part of Dolce Suono Ensemble's Mahler 100 Schoenberg 60 project. This was marking the anniversaries of the deaths of these two titans, Mahler and Schoenberg. Part of what we did was commission 6 new works by incredible composers. We also, on the concert that you joined us for, Lucy, we played one of your signature pieces, Schoenberg's Pierrot Lunaire, which was also in its centennial year, 1912 to 2012. So there was just a lot of layers of symbolism here. Shulamit was reflecting on the Schoenberg, not so much directly in terms of musical style, but she created a selection of texts that you sang that were based on the moon. So that was the connection with the idea of the moon-mad Pierrot Lunaire and the Schoenberg. Anything you want to say before we start it? We could also talk a little after.
Let's talk about it after.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to put on the first movement. This is called Creation, and it has to do with the creation of the moon. And here Shulamit Ron has selected texts from the modern Israeli poet Chaim Guri, the Psalms, so we have biblical texts, and the medieval Hebrew poet Shlomo Ibn Gabirol. So I think you're singing all in Hebrew in this section that we're going to listen to.
I am.
Okay. And here we go. Then, and now we're back. Brava.
Wow, that was really interesting I haven't seen that. I mean, I don't know that I ever saw it.
Yes, because this was from Dolce Suono Ensemble's set of world premiere performances. It was that whole weekend where we performed in Haverford, Philadelphia, and New York at Symphony Space, bringing together both the Mahler-Schoenberg project and 7 of our commissioned works. So it was a very exciting and intense few days. So we're getting lovely comments. Thanks everybody for sharing about that. And we have the whole piece. I'm sure you're very enticed to hear the rest of it. It's on our album, American Canvas, and who you just saw playing. Obviously, I was playing flute and piccolo because Shulamit Ron has me switch between the 2 instruments, and then Dolce Suono Trio cellist Yumi Kendall and our pianist Charles Abramovic. And those of you maybe seeing this for the first time, perhaps notice that cello didn't play for most of the first movement. And actually, Shulamit Ran in her program notes talks about how the cello is sometimes absent in this work, that flute and piano most prominently complement the voice, and that has to do perhaps with this conception of the other side of the moon, so that when cello does come in, it brings in just a more contrasting color in a different way. So what's it like to sing in Hebrew, Lucy?
Well, it was hard. It's not, but I've sung I sing in any language if I get the help, which I certainly got from Shulamit. It's very much in her music. You can't imagine. It's very Hebraic, very natural.
Absolutely. There's elements in this piece that sound a little like a folk song.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, the ending was definitely a folk song in praise of the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some nice greetings. One specifically to you from Bryce Smith. Hello. Hi, Lucy. Miss you, friend. Thank you so much for commenting. Great to hear from you. Also, Elise Blaustein says hi to both of us. Hello, Elise. She's having beer with cheese and crackers. Sounds great. Thanks for sharing that. Ronnie Gordon, mom, and Dolce Suono Ensemble Board of Directors is saying, Lucy, what a joy to see you again and hear your exciting performance of Moon Songs. Bravo, Lucy, Mimi, Yumi, and Charlie. Thank you so much. It is fun to revisit for those of us who were there, and then perhaps for people seeing it for the first time, really great to experience Shulamit Ron's Moon Songs. I wanted to ask you something just about you and your career trajectory as one of the best known new music singers, if I can use that definition, because your mentor Janda Gaetani was a major pioneer here, but before you and a few other ladies, right, as singers, this really wasn't such a common thing as it is today. Today there are many singers who devote their careers to new music, but not really before you and a few other really great luminaries like yourself. I would love to hear about that from you. I think our listeners would be very interested.
Well, I have to say the most obvious thing is in that singers have always done new music because every piece has its first performance. So it's become, as we get more and more styles of music, people develop, their early music specialists, their song recitalists, their operatic, whatever. And yes, the new music singer, I'd say Janda Gaetani was definitely at the front. This is in the late 20th century, along with Phyllis Curtin and not Phyllis Bryn-Jolson, and of course Kathy Barbarian, and they all, as tends to happen, I mean, they're composers. They inspired a lot of great music. I mean, George Crumb wrote for Jan extensively. Bethany Beardsley, I should mention her. Babbitt wrote all of his pieces for Bethany, and the association. I mean, it's just so rewarding to work with a composer on something new. And I started off singing in my career, singing early music. My first tour was with New York Pro Musicis, doing a Daphne opera, Galliano Daphne. but throughout my growing up, I was always playing around with music, and I took piano and I loved experimenting. So new music, I wasn't afraid, and I loved exploring, and I think that's uh, kind of what I loved it because it was a challenge and rewarding, and this wonderful connection, bringing things to life for the first time. That's a thrill. That's an absolute thrill. Although it didn't look like I was particularly thrilled singing Moon. I mean,
No, it's
in the performance, it's really thrilling to be bringing scores to life. And Mimi, you certainly have done that many, 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 many times.
Thank you. No, but I share the sense of that it's such a thrill working with a composer on his or her conception of the piece and bringing it out to audiences for the first time, of course. But it's really, I feel as a flutist who does new music, very much standing on the shoulders of giants who broke the path in that way, like you,
Yes.
and created, especially looking at your repertoire and the composers who wrote for you, just such a symbiotic relationship. I mean, you were there to bring their works to life, and they were there to write for you, and that's so amazing. I'd love to play an example of a piece written for you by Elliot Carter that you suggested. So I don't know if you want to introduce the Tempo e Tempi, the last movement that I queued up as you suggested. Yeah, so that was written for you, right?
I premiered it. It wasn't written for me. It actually developed, he wrote 3 songs that were commissioned um, for Italian performers, and then it got to be the group of 8 songs, and I did the premiere in London with Oliver Nussen conducting and working with Elliot a lot. They are mostly very short pieces. Actually, this last one is one of the larger movements. It's 2.5, 3 minutes, but just I find. Oh goodness! I see you just went to the. His music makes a lot of sense to me. It did always from the beginning. I feel like he has a harmony that I understand, and I just love his colors, his articulations, and I find it very. This last movement particularly is really has beautiful ensemble colors of the instruments on top of each other, blending, and huge range for the oboe, and some interesting pizzicato stuff in the cello.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, what I'm going to do, this is from an album, so I'm just going to share it, and we can all listen together to Lucy Shelton singing in Elliot Carter's Tempo e Tempi, number 8, Segreto del Poeta, or Secret of the Poet, or the Poet's Secret. It's that so magical.
You just stopped it.
Yeah, I wanted to stop it there. I think, yes, just for now, because it's so magical. It creates such an incredible mood. So everyone can get the album to hear the entire work. But wow, like you said, with the oboe color and combining with your voice, that's a really, really compelling work, Lucy.
Yeah.
In performance.
I wasn't sure of I didn't hear it very well right here on my machine, but I'll trust that it was got out there.
Hopefully, my original comments were that things are coming through well. Hopefully everyone's having no trouble hearing the example. Okay. Well, let us know if you have any trouble, folks listening. Krista Hansen was there at the Moon Songs premiere. That is great. I'm so happy to share that memory with you. Yeah, thanks for saying that. So this Elliot Carter, it was so nice watching you listen to this, because I was reminded of something that meant a lot to me every time we played together. Was just the quality and the supportiveness of your listening in the rest where you weren't singing. Like, we all felt so supported by your musicianship at all times. And I know there are a few moments where you saved the day with a little coaching to one of us. That was so great. So just watching you listen back to this recording was so lovely in that way. Yeah. So Schoenberg has been so important in your career, and because of that, in the ears of so many listeners for whom you've sung Pierrot Lunaire and this other song that you suggested we listen to today. What first spoke to you about Schoenberg? And of course, it's not all Sprechstimme, but if you could talk a little bit about that unique technique in the Pierrot Lunaire, it'd be so fascinating.
Well, Pierrot Lunaire is 21 songs, and there are only 9 sung tones that says gesungen, sung. Otherwise, it's all this netherland of between singing and speaking. It's all exactly notated rhythmically, and there are pitches, but you don't sing and vibrate on them. So they're not stable pitches. It's all very speech. You just go up and down. If you tell your grandchildren, or I would tell grandchildren, your children little bedtime stories, or read books, you are using Sprechstimme, most likely. He said, and then the cow mooed, or ouch, said it's just drama with language. Only it's organized, it's composed so that it really makes sense in the piece with all the instruments. And it's a piece that I'll never do the same way. I mean, not that, I don't know, Amy, do you feel that once you learn a piece, you play it the same way generally? But Pierrot, there's more, I mean, we always alter things slightly, but there's more room in the vocal part anyway, I think, in Pierrot, with each performance to take it a different place, because it's of this inexactitude, playfulness.
I mean, I have
storytelling. It's really just 21 little stories that are quite dramatic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've played it a fraction of the times that you've sung it, but I guess I'm very lucky because I did it most times with you. So, but yeah, it has a lot of elasticity. I mean, I don't think we can perform any work the same way twice if we tried, but it's kind of built in with a lot of freedom and rhapsodic quality in the timing, probably because of the way the vocal line is so unique. But yeah, since we're talking about Schoenberg's Pierrot Lunaire, let me just put a little bit, like an excerpt of the beginning from one of our performances with Dolce Suono Ensemble. It's actually quite interesting. I think this one looks okay, here we are. It looks silhouetted. I think we had a little more light on screen, so it's going to look a little bit spooky, but that goes with the music, right? That goes with this kind of moon mad Pierrot Commedia dell'arte character vibe that Schoenberg has. So you're going to see Dolce Suono Ensemble. I'm on flute, Paul Demers on clarinet and bass clarinet, Mark Rovetti on violin, Yumi Kendall on cello, and Charles Abramovic on piano. We are led by Lucy Shelton, soprano.
Love it.
Yeah, we were so impressed. We know that you do this 35 to 40-minute, rather difficult work from memory, but
I'm
wow.
surprised I did it from memory. I don't remember. I thought I always held my book. I was really shocked to see I did it from memory. I must have felt very comfortable with you.
Oh, that's thank you. That's a huge compliment. No, we were pretty amazed. And you had that beautiful leather cover on your Pierrot, as I remember too.
Well, so I did hold the book.
No, you had it at rehearsal. You did not have it at performances, and we were amazed.
That's what I use in performance. It's my book. Oh, Amy, that's funny. That was lovely to remember. Yeah.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about Pierrot Lunaire, it's such an iconic work of the 20th into 21st century. On so many levels, composers were inspired. Even the concept of the Pierrot ensemble, which, as you pointed out, most composers that write for Pierrot ensemble don't actually write for voice necessarily, even though voice is key here. It's kind of the quintet with percussion is what often is known as Pierrot, but people didn't really write for this group before Schoenberg, or not widely.
Well, he was the first person to combine winds and strings. I mean, it was the first ensemble that mixed, except for an occasional, well, no, the Debussy, harp, flute, viola. I mean, there would be smaller, but to have an ensemble that was really paired like that, it was the first time.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of that, very influential, the style itself. Also, it's interesting. I mean, you've performed this so many times throughout your career without a conductor. Sometimes the very first time I did it was as a Curtis student with one of the Curtis students conducting as a great way to learn it. You've probably done it both ways, is my guess.
I've done it both ways, and the advantage to doing it with a conductor, well, fewer rehearsals, whether that's an advantage or not, I'm not sure. Fewer rehearsals, but you also the singer could be more separate from the ensemble. When there's no conductor, I mean, I like to be right in the middle, because basically that's how it's going to stay together. So it takes a lot more time to put it together, but it's and all the players have to really know the score. No, it's not. You can't do it unless you really have studied it. All the people have studied.
Yeah, well, we were also really conducting each other or showing each other, like in the true spirit of chamber music. But you were kind of managing that at times. I noticed you gave little assistance or cues, or just like showed the timing, because I guess it's part of the acting. It's so theatrical what you do in this piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're on Schoenberg, I would love to play this really remarkable song that you suggested, and I'm hoping that you'll say the name so I don't have to show the German pronunciation that I'm having trouble with.
Yeah, it's Herzgewächse.
Exactly.
Herzgewächse. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's a poem by Metterlink, and has the most extraordinary. I mean, this talk about color combination. I mean, he put the flute and clarinet with the violin and cello, but you also here he puts soprano with celeste, harmonium, and harp.
Hmm.
Very outlandish ensemble. Uh, as you'll hear in the sound, and it's not a very practical ensemble.
Yeah.
You don't find very many harmoniums available.
No, we had trouble hunting for one for our performance of Schoenberg's arrangement of Mahler's Lieder eines fahrenden Gesellen, the Songs of a Wayfarer, because for those following along at home, if you don't have a harmonium in your living room, I would be surprised I don't have one either. But in the late 19th century, this instrument was like a small portative organ that people did have in their homes sometimes, I guess, if Schoenberg used it. But he did it a lot for some of his ensembles. So that's what you're going to hear in this song, which I'm going to cue up. And some of you are putting lovely comments. Thank you so much. Some of you are drinking. I also I am having tea. I'm having a little Dubonnet at Tea with Mimi as well. So we'd love to know what you're drinking. If you're joining us later, welcome. If you can go back and watch the rest of the show afterwards, the links will be active. So here comes Herzgewächse with Lucy Shelton soprano. And I'm just about to cue it up. Here we are, by Arnold Schoenberg. Wow.
At Midas, we make sure every
sorry.
stop on your road.
I shared from an album, by the way. That's an album with the da capo chamber players, Schoenberg, Herzgewächse, with Lucy Shelton soprano. That's really gripping. And you were in Queen of the Night territory, coloratura-wise, pitch-wise.
Yes, it is the high F. Yeah. I had that for a few years.
Well, we're so fortunate to have that really gripping recording of this song. And it's interesting because Schoenberg wrote it in 1911, so the year before Pierrot Lunaire, but was using a more, let's say, traditional singing style, not quite going to the speech singing of the Sprechstimme of Pierrot.
Well, and it should be said that the Pierrot, it was commissioned by an actress. Mm-hmm. So it was never, it got more singing. It was probably more vocally, it was beyond her ability to do any real vocalism. So it's because she commissioned it that it got this twixt and tween.
Interesting. But I think when we study Schoenberg in music history, we also learn a little bit about his kind of approach to the voice as being connected to philosophical ideas about the voice and poetry and how, I guess, meaning is communicated. But it's just interesting to hear that contrast, like the more sung piece for an operatically trained singer that we heard, and then the actress inspiration of the. Yep. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing this really special recording. And of course, these albums are available for everyone to go hear more of after the show. I would love to share another performance of yours with us, with Dolce Suono Ensemble, for the season in which Shulamit Ron's Moon Songs was premiered, our commissioned work that we heard earlier. Shulamit was in residence with us for several concerts, including one that we did that was called A Place and a Name Remembering the Holocaust, in which we performed music by composers who were victims of the Nazis, and then composers later on reflecting on the Holocaust in their music. And so we played Shulamit's Oh, the Chimneys, which is a setting of text by Nelly Sachs. She wrote it when she was only, I think, 20 or 21. It's a very early, impressive work by Shulamit, a very personal tribute as well to victims of the Holocaust. I mean, so many of us, I'm Jewish, who had ancestors who were victims. Shulamit as well as an Israeli composer. So it's very, very compelling. And I know you had sung it, I think, several times in your, or was this, had you sung it before? Oh, sorry.
That was the first time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was the first time for all of us. It was really, really special. So I have an excerpt that I'd love to cue up. There was a moment where you went and sang into the piano too, I think.
Yes. Are we going to hear that one?
I don't know if it's on here. I also have a Dolce Suono Ensemble from YouTube, so we hope there's not another ad, but I'm just so pleased to share this incredible work with everybody. And actually that brings up the question also of sometimes we do an extended technique or something outside traditional practice. In the Moon Songs excerpt, I walked over and used a mallet inside the piano to strike the strings. But I guess as a new music singer, you sometimes do percussion, you sometimes do singing into the piano. You probably do lots of things I can't even think of.
Sure. My hands are free, so I can do all sorts of things. And, yeah, lots of things.
Okay. Well, here is from Shulamit Ron's Oh, the Chimneys, from our Holocaust related program. And I'm just getting it ready to share right now. Okay. Yes. Here it is. Okay. was the whole final portion of Shulamit Ron's Oh, the Chimneys from your performance, Lucy Shelton with Dolce Suono Ensemble in 2011 in our Holocaust memorial concert. While the artists are on stage, I just want to point out we have Paul Demers on clarinet, Yumi Kendall on cello, Charles Abramovic on piano, and Gabriel Globus Honig on percussion, in addition to you and me. And that was really such an emotional experience. Yeah.
Yes.
And as you probably saw, everybody, at the end there was actually a recorded track that Shulamit prepared where you heard bells and I think train sounds, and just that kind of just subsumes the performance. And you have one more comment there in the voice part before it's over. But that was the portion where you sing directly into the piano, getting the resonance out, and actually Yumi goes over and plays percussion. So we were just talking about this new music thing of people having other tasks to do. So that was very special to share. I also just want to thank our listeners for commenting. If you came in late, you can share this link afterwards or go back and hear it. Please share with your friends this show. We are happy to get your comments and questions and hear from you. Ronnie Gordon, my memory does not deceive me. Lucy, you performed an amazing Pierrot Lunaire. Thank you. We have Rick Rosen. Wonderful to watch you both watching the performance. Yeah. Thank you. Krista Hansen, Candlelight and Dubonnet on Ice by Lou Reed. I'll have to check that out as a comment on the fact that I had some Dubonnet here at Tea with Mimi in addition to tea. Also, Rick, wow, indeed. Thank you. Oh, Ronnie Gordon, witnessing Oh, the Chimneys in performance was devastating. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was a very memorable experience to do this concert, to do it with you, Lucy, and to work with Shulamit on this piece as well as her new work for us, Moon Songs. I actually have one memory from that. Let me just find this. Hang on one second. I think you're gonna like this image of that was after this very concert.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful.
That's with composer Shulamit Ron. So it's so nice to see that again. Yeah. I would love to ask you about your teaching, because we talked about you a little bit as such a leader in the vocal new music field. You know, your work with all these composers, you know, living ones as well as just the 20th century core repertoire, Schoenberg and others. But, you know, at the helm of the program at Tanglewood and other schools, what's it been like to introduce young singers to singing new music? Perhaps, I don't know, maybe they haven't sung it before, or what is that like for you?
Absolutely. Well, it's a joy. I mean, the place I've done it the most was my 20 years at Tanglewood, where there was a contemporary music festival, and singers would get assigned new music. And at the beginning of the summer, they would open a score and go, you know, all the color would go out of their, I mean, they were so frightened, so just scared, because it just looked too hard. Because they've had no, I mean, they don't get experience in doing, I mean, it isn't a part of your regular vocal studio or studying it. You need to be with a teacher who really does it herself, I think. So they don't necessarily find out that they even have an aptitude for it, or that they love it. And during the course of the summers, you know, they would practice, and I have all sorts of fun ways of hearing things and practicing the odd intervals and the disjunct intervals. And by the end, they would have their confidence. They would do a wonderful performance, and many of them would go on to do more new music because they conquered the fear. It really, you're kept away from it out of fear of that it's just too hard. And it's not that hard, and it doesn't hurt your voice. And it's, there's so many joys, there's so many rewards to doing it. And of course, now I teach at Manhattan School in the contemporary performance program. So I deal with singers who are already in the in the field of new music and are have no fears and just get to develop and share, move them, suggest repertoire and work with them. So
that's really interesting, because I would think that, I mean, for instrumentalists, it's kind of normal to play new music, increasingly normal. But do you think for singers, because of the way the voice is trained, it is considered potentially even harmful or something?
Yes, I think it is. And I mean, well, actually, today's new music is much more accessible, and there's a bigger, there are many more people involved in new music today. Well, you mentioned that at the beginning of the program, but it's not the hardcore. It's not the new music that I was dealing with. It's very tonal, basically, mostly.
That is interesting. Yeah, just the way the styles have changed, that maybe when you were coming of age, atonality was so much more prevalent. And you mentioned, this is fascinating to me, exercises for singers to sing not unpredictable intervals, but stranger intervals. So
I mean, warm-ups are always done in major keys. Well, why not do minor? Why not? They usually go up and down. Why not go down and up? I mean, these things are, it's actually a little bit hard. Or singing da 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 da. I mean, that's still a second. Da da. On the da. Trying to find the higher. I mean, we only have 12 notes. They get displaced, but if you hear them in their closed. If you hear them within their octave, as it were, or you never have to sing an interval bigger than a fifth. You have to be able to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And our instruments, I mean, this is the other thing, of course, it's all ear. I mean, we don't get to press keys or put fingers on, we don't have fingerboards and so on. So we have to develop the ear to find the pitches. We have to hear the pitch before we sing it, and the instrument sets itself because we hear it.
Well, we're really supposed to hear it in our heads too, even though we're supposed to.
Yeah, right.
But things like that's fascinating. That exercise of the second, exercise of the ninth. I would think that helps all music, not just newer music where you might have ninths. I mean, I would think all cross-pollinates.
Yeah, it's also just a beautiful interval.
I agree.
Ninths and sevenths are my favorite.
Oh, I never knew that. That's
yeah, they are.
That's wonderful. Well, you know what? Let me just share this. I'm going to share the cover image of our album in which we recorded Shulamit Ron's Moon songs, because for those of you who are encountering this work for the first time in our video, you might also enjoy hearing it. Oh, let me just, I think it's right here. One moment. I hope I can find it. I'm getting a lot of, here. Good. Yeah, so this is American Canvas, where you can hear the whole work. And before we go on to another very special selection, we will be performing Moon Songs on the opening concert of Dolce Suono Ensemble's next season. DSE presents in September. So everybody who's watching, please visit dolcesuono.com so you can sign up for our email newsletter, follow us on social media, also me, subscribe to the season. It'd be great to have you attend either in person in Philadelphia, or we're offering our concerts this past season and next season virtually as well. So you can actually attend from anywhere in the world when we release the concerts after. I'm stopping the share on this. I have such a special performance that you shared with me that I'm thrilled to share. This is your Schubert, Der Hirt auf dem Felsen, Shepherd on the Rock, which is one of my favorite chamber music works, even though it has no flute. I grew up with my mom and brother as clarinetists, and hearing clarinet repertoire and hearing this gorgeous piece. And so I've always loved it. I would love for you to introduce this performance, and then we're going to listen to it before we say goodnight to everybody.
Oh, lovely. Shepherd on the Rock. Well, this is from kind of the beginning of my career, 1980, from Chamber Music Northwest out in Portland, Oregon, with David Schifrin, a young David Schifrin, who later went on to be the head of the Lincoln Center Chamber Music Society. David Schifrin and David Golub, wonderful, wonderful pianist. And I mean, probably a lot of you already know the piece. I mean, it is just the one of the favorites. Think of vocal chamber music for a young soprano. Oh, Shepherd on the Rock! I want to do Shepherd on the Rock, because it's just such a heavenly piece, with the clarinet being high in the mountains, looking down, and ending with this joyous. It has three kind of sections, and it's just a beautifully written, perfectly written piece, and great fun to perform. And these were great colleagues.
Oh, wonderful. I'm about to share Schubert's Shepherd on the Rock with Lucy Shelton, David Schifrin, David Golub, and then we'll be back. And that's actually just audio, so I think we'll leave ourselves on the screen while I do that.
It is on the rock and not on the rocks. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
My cranberry juice is not on the rocks, but
Neither is my Dubonnet. Okay.
Shepherd on the Rock.
Yes.
Schwingt sich im Chor der Wiederhall. Der Wiederhall der Klüfte.
Wow, that's just such a joyous piece. And actually, I sang that on my Naumburg, my vocal Telly Hall recital in 1980.
Oh wow. Wow. That is just an exquisite performance of Schubert's Shepherd on the Rock with David Schifrin and David Golla. But Lucy, thank you so much for sharing this, for sharing your presence, your artistry. It's been so wonderful having this time with you, but being able to share this with all our listeners. We're getting lovely comments. Thank you, everyone. But I just have to say, it was just always the greatest inspiration to play with you. And not just in performance, but like you heard in the Schubert and every track we shared, even in rehearsal, the way that you imbue every note, every phrase with meaning and expression. And it was just such an inspiration to share the room, to share the stage, and to aspire to do that as well. So I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Mimi. That's very sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful doing all the work we did. I loved it. Yep. I miss you.
I miss you too. I can't wait to hug you for real and do more music together. But before we say goodnight, is there anything you want to tell us? I'd love for you to share about the Sarajevo opera that you are singing in. And everybody, once again, thanks for being here. This has been splendid music and conversation with new music icon soprano Lucy Shelton. So I think she has a little bit of news, perhaps, about updating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not. The Pierrot, the Sprechstimme is living forever with me because a part was written for me by Kaya Sarajevo that uses Sprechstimme in her amazing opera about a school shooting called Innocence. And we had the premiere in Aix-en-Provence last June. And I'll be doing it in Helsinki and London and Amsterdam and San Francisco. I play the role of the teacher. It's a complicated story. It's basically, well, it's not that complicated a story, but it's two time periods: the time of the shooting and 10 years later, when the families tried to move on. And it's basically is dealing with everybody's trauma. And the music is so. And the teacher, I have, we all have. We could have kept it from happening. We all have guilt, and how to move on. And in this, well, this is where we are in this world. We are dealing with this horrific outburst of aggression and meaningless killings. And this is an opera that just deals with in a way that somehow heals. I mean, that you feel like the characters do find healing. So it has a positive impact, and it's a beautiful piece of music. And yeah, so it's a real privilege to be a part of it.
Well, thank you for telling us a little bit about the Sarajevo opera in which you're performing. So
It's called Innocence. I don't know that I said the title.
Yes, Innocence. Okay, we can watch for it, and always, of course, watch for you. But once again, Lucy, it's been so wonderful having this time with you. Thanks for sharing your music and commentary with everybody. Thanks everybody for joining. And once again, you can share this link or revisit this program afterward on both YouTube and Facebook. So have a good evening or day wherever you are, everybody. Thanks
Thank you, Mimi.
Bye.